All right, this Facebook Live is all about how to free yourself from victimhood of anything, be it the craziness of politics, the craziness of your relationship, feeling a victim of the construction outside, or things that are affecting your business, the weather, environmental things. I mean, truly not letting anything run you that is anything less than you deserve. So, are you up for that? Anyone up for that journey of transcending the need to feel like you're under the thumb of political things that are happening, or your finances, or your bank account? Because I love this conversation. Now, how this conversation started was you're getting a bit of an inside scoop on our team meeting from yesterday, which was team meeting at the Wide Awakening. And that particular conversation was around leadership, because I noticed even in organizations, what ends up happening is that people can start to feel subjugated to their boss, subjugated to their mate, subjugated. We started to notice even some things happening on the team where you just start to get into an old pattern. And so what is it that takes, what is it that we need to do to shift? So I'm going to invite you to please comment below. I'd love to hear what you felt of victimhood, and I'd also a victim of, and I'd also love to hear how this conversation changes your relationship to what's going on around you. I'm so glad it's divine timing. I'm so glad for our friends in New Zealand, our friends in the United States and Canada and England and China and all over the world that watch these videos. Just welcome. And if you know anyone that's feeling like they're a victim of some part of their life, like some part of their life is running them, make sure you pass this on or share it with someone, okay? This will be on YouTube, and when it's on YouTube, you can pass it on. There's a whole bunch of these videos that are meant to empower you, change your thinking, bridge your left brain and right brain, cause permanent cellular shifts. It's our pleasure to do these and store them on youtube.com/The Wide Awakening. Go and like us and follow us. You'll always get the updates as to when they're saved, okay? All right, here we go. So what is the solution? Now, I'm going to leave the punchline for the end, because if I tell you at the beginning, what will happen is your brain will think you already know. So I'm not going to say the word that I want to say. I'll save it for the end, but I'm going to talk about the constituents, the characteristics of this word. See if you can guess it. Okay, the very first and key, absolute key aspect to never be a victim, being a victim, is you have to be solution. So I'm going to name 5 things, okay? There are 5 characteristics that are essential to never be a victim. Okay, so the first one is being solutions oriented. In other words, looking for solutions, which means talking about the solutions, finding people who will look for the solutions, willing to be creative enough to find solutions, being willing to get over making the situation, the person, or the organization wrong. In other words, you stop complaining such that you can leave an opening for solutions. That is the first thing. So it's when you're solutions oriented, when you start being vigilant for solutions, it changes the entire way that you run your life. This is only number 1. I can't wait to tell you the other 4. And that is as opposed to bitching and complaining. Okay? Just to be straight up. Now, I want you to really look. I'm going to ask a question at the end for each of these characteristics, and you want to answer them really honestly, because the answer to the questions I'm going to ask is going to change your life. This won't take long. All right, so the next one is you have to be willing to see yourself as proactive, to act proactively. In other words, to people who live in victimhood generally don't see that there could be a potential problem. Oftentimes they live in magical or wishful thinking. And when you live in wishful thinking, you're not actually looking at what could happen so that you could make wise choices or use that solution-orientedness to create something to preempt what might happen. So for some of you, you're thinking of a situation you're already in and it's like, oh my God, well, it's a little too late for proactivity. That's okay. Just think about what you would have done maybe to be a little bit proactive in the past. Now that's positively proactive. I'm not talking about reactive. People who feel a victim definitely tend to react. And then what they do is they point the finger at the thing that they reacted to. By the way, you're also not allowed to use these characteristics of people who live in flow and ease and constant, openings and magical living, really thriving. These are characteristics of people that thrive, that are never victims, right? So we got solutions oriented. They're generally proactive. So the next thing is they are service oriented. In other words, when they walk into the world, if you're in a company, you'll always be looking for, how can I serve our clients? How you be a victim in a company, for instance, I'll tell you what it looks like in a relationship in a second. But if you were in a company or you're working for an organization, what it would look like if you were a victim is you're trying to be in service to the boss or trying to be in service to the president instead of being in service to the mission and the clients. Okay, this is all about being in service to the mission and the clients. If you're in a relationship, you're not in service to your sweetie pie. You're in service to the love. Listen to me again. That is life-changing, by the way. You are not about being in service to your sweetie pie. You're about being in service to the love, letting love win. Okay? So it would be the equivalent of in a company not being in service to the president. In other words, trying to get their approval, because you will always be a victim because you'll never find yourself good enough. If you're in service to the client and you're making the company a better place to be, that's how you step out of being a victim. Okay, so number 4, okay, is about creativity, inspired creativity. So let me show you what it doesn't look like in a company. What it doesn't look like is it doesn't look like following the orders of someone, okay? It does not look like following their orders and then being able to point the finger at them when they tell you that you didn't do it right. It's about actually, if something they give you doesn't work, you start being creative about how it could work, or you build bridges to it. You have creative conversations to make it work. Also, people who see, so this is how someone who is never a victim thinks. How they think is, how can I make this more beautiful? How can they get excited about their job because they're thinking about how they can make that place a better place, how they can make the customer experience a better experience, how they can improve their Facebook Live, there is constant, it's kind of like that picture behind me. They're in constant state of creativity. They're looking, no matter how little money is in the bank, they are looking for they are looking to create upon creation. So in a relationship, what it looks like is instead of sort of letting the relationship overtake you, it's making sure that you do something different every Friday night, right? Every Friday night, you literally make up a new thing for your date night. Every Saturday, you wake up in the morning, you think of a beautiful new thing that you can contribute to the relationship, maybe for breakfast, right? It's sexually, it's every way. People that are not victims are constantly looking how to create on what has been, or things get stagnant in any area of your life. It's key. So that was number 4. For those of you just listening now, you might want to listen to 1, 2, and 3. And the last one, which is the hardest one to get, particularly if you're working in an organization or if you sort of subjugated yourself to your spouse, let's say, or to your sweetie pie, or to your house, or to your whatever it is, or to your finances. It's side by side. It's operating in life. Wait for it, because I'm about to ask you guys some questions that will get really real. Make everything that I'm saying, this is all nice information, but until we make it practical, it's not going to change anything. So I'm going to ask a question that's going to make it practical for you, okay? So the last piece of this, listen, really, like take it in, like really listen, breathe this, see if this fits. When you're in a marriage, or when you're in a relationship, or when you're working for other people, do you operate like you're as intelligent, as wise, as expert, as willing to become an expert, even if you're not an expert, at what you do as everyone else? Are you willing to own that what you do actually matters, that the company couldn't deliver what it delivers without your role? Because if you can own that, by the way, also I'm thinking of a relationship where there's a 50-something-year-old woman. Actually, I can think of multitudes of these women right now. Now that I thought of that one person, I can think of 5 others who, in their relationship, when they first got married, there was still a little bit of the energy of the man was earning the money, or the man goes out and earns and the woman's raising the kids even though she has a job or whatever. That's a certain kind of putting what you do as a little bit less than. It's like making yourself, if you're a receptionist in an office, less important. But if you actually own that you're as important as the president, it will actually come across. We encourage that. As I said, this is an inside look at our company team meeting. And in our company team meeting the other day, I said, we are side by side here. Yes, I have a certain kind of genius. I'm willing to own that. But are you willing to own your kind of genius in your relationship, in your company, when you're out walking the dog, when you're in the, and are you willing to encourage that same recognition of someone's genius in the grocery store? Are you willing to encourage that no matter what you're doing? It's huge. Okay, so side by sideness. But here's the crux, the question. This is where it gets juicy, because I want you to actually answer, and you can answer in the comments because I want to hear it. Okay, so first of all, with respect to being solutions oriented, that was number 1. Now I'm going to ask you 3 questions, for 3 different areas. First of all, how much do you complain currently about your work or your lack of it, your sweetie, or your finances? Okay, what percentage of the time are you in solutions versus complaining? And be honest, okay? In your life, I'm just going to use finances, work, and it could be if you don't work outside of the home and you work in your house and with your kids, then it applies to that, okay? And then in your love life. Okay, so the second question is, I want you to get really super real. Percentage of the time. What percentage of the time are you reactive to your life with respect to finances, work, relationship, versus being reactive? What percentage of the time are you proactive? In other words, putting systems in place to prevent things from happening, really being a visionary. Okay, health is another one, Carrie. Thank you. Health is another one. You can ask it about any area, but what you want to do in order to build the bridge is get real up front. If people who live in flow and build bridges to a new world have these characteristics, it's important to get real about the percentage of time you spend in solutions orientedness versus complaining and bitching. Okay? So in your relationship, your finances, what percentage of the time? Next is side by sideness. So what percentage of the time do you feel as good as anybody else? As genius as anybody else? What percentage of the time do you feel like you are not a victim? You literally are the master of your own universe, that you can co-create with your sweetie as an equal, that you can co-create, like you act as if you actually take action consistent with co-creating in your company to make your job or that company a better place, or your customer experience a better place, right? What percentage of your time do you feel side by side to empower yourself about finances, a bank, a finance manager, looking for solutions? Next is, what percentage of the time are you in service and impassioned by that service for your clients, whether it's your business or someone else's? What percentage of your time while you're working are you impassioned by seeing your kids and being with your kids and having fun with your kids? And by the way, one of the things about being in service is also about being in service to yourself and caring for yourself. And part of caring for yourself is this level of leadership. So, yes, being in service and creative, finally. What percentage of the time do you allow yourself to celebrate and be creative with your family, with your loved ones, in your finances? Or do you start feeling completely disempowered and have no energy at all for any of it? If you want to know how to get out of the magnetics of victimhood, these are the characteristics of people that don't live in the magnetics of victimhood. These are the characteristics. Now, I told you I didn't say this word. This word I was going to say, which I didn't say. So today is all about building a bridge from victimhood to leadership. The word is leadership. These are the characteristics of people that lead versus people that feel on the other end of life, like life is doing it to them. And the interesting thing is these are just well-practiced characteristics. Some people came in with them, but every characteristic that I mentioned can be practiced and learned. Imagine in your life if you became vigilant even 50% of the time for the answer to the question, how can I be of service right now? The answer to the question, how can I creatively create something, creatively do something about this situation? Am I willing to get so neutral that I can see the solutions? Or am I going to stay in my righteousness? How willing am I to be side by side with the people maybe even that I'm having an issue with? How willing am I to let love win? How willing am I to see the solutions and to be proactive? These are the questions that people who build bridges from victimhood to leadership, these are the questions that leaders of shifting their lives, shifting a company, shifting their relationships, shifting the world, these are the questions they ask. And the questions of how can I be right? How can I make someone see me? How can I find the people that agree with me? How can I how can I make people see that I'm better than what they think I am? How can I, make everyone see that it's that person's fault? Those are all victim questions. Do you understand? Leaders ask different questions. You just have to decide who you want to be. All right, everyone? So hopefully this assisted. And two things. One is I'd love to hear how this assists you or how it changes the way you look at things. Secondly, coming up, I have an interview with a wonderful woman named Debbie Lichter, who is all about not being a victim of food and food addictions. I don't know if you know this about me, but I actually had a little issue with those when I was in my teens. So this is a subject that's near and dear to me. You can go to freedomfromooddiction.series.com. freedomfromooddiction.series.com. If you want to see the interview that I'm doing with Debbie Lichter about that particular subject. It's very, very powerful, and you can pass that link on to anyone you know has that issue. Next is, I also want you to know that that you can all join us. We're constantly, doing great stuff, and we have a program coming up that's all about building these kinds of bridges permanently, though, making those permanent cellular shifts. And that is coming up at the Omega Center in Rhinebeck, New York. You can go and look up that program. It's called The Mastery of Ease and Flow in Rhinebeck, New York at the Omega Center, and I'll put the link on here. So if you want to do the metaphysical work to change the way that your body's magnetics relate to life and make these permanent cellular shifts, so that instead of having to think about how to be a leader, you actually automatically get your left brain to agree to your right brain, and your entire biochemistry shifts to a new way of being called leadership, instead of having to work so hard on it. That really is the work we do at the Wide Awakening. That's what I'm interested in. So I will put the link to that program. It's on the summer solstice at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. Please make sure you make comments on this. Pass this on to anyone you know who might be assisted. I promise you, every little bit that we communicate helps. It builds bridges to a better humanity, and it certainly helps people understand how they can actually be an agent of awakening, and that they're not on their own. All right, you guys, we'll see you again the next time we have our Facebook Live. Love you, and see you at 11:11 Eastern Time on Monday. Bye for now.